Hi there, Tracy here, also known as Mercy Tiara, with another episode of Find Your Mojo. Each episode will give you a prompt or a challenge to get your creative juices flowing and get you scrapping and documenting your memories. This time, the prompt is Deconstruction Zone. We're going to be talking all about using a deconstructed approach to creating a layout. But before we get started, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about this approach and show you some examples from other pages that I made over the years using this approach. I haven't used this technique very often, but when I do, I'm usually really pleased with the results. So this first layout is kind of poorly photographed, but I wanted to include it because it is one of my favorite examples of a deconstructed layout. I have all of these tags set out beside the photo, and then I layered some embellishments on top of the tags and in some of the spaces between the tags. And I really like how this looks. This layout is all about finding beauty in the mundane, and so the load of laundry was central to the story that I was trying to tell, but I wanted to combine some plain items like the craft tags in particular, and then also some really pretty items like those little fabric rosettes at the bottom. And I think that combination of plain and fancier embellishments really helped me to tell the story that I was wanting to tell. Now here's a second layout using a similar approach where I basically laid out all of my embellishments, but I spread them out quite a bit rather than making them be tight together. And I kind of helped them to look like they belonged by making some stitching lines across the layout that followed the angle of the two pieces of cardstock that form the background. Basically, laying out those embellishments along those lines helped them look a little bit less random and like they're strategically placed. And I think that the resulting layout has a bit of a whimsical feel, which kind of suits the topic of Canada Day and the rides that we went on that particular day. Now this last layout that I'm showing you is another one of my favorites using this deconstructed approach. And in this one, I arranged a bunch of tags and larger embellishments so that they made the shape of a Christmas tree. And then I added a little bit of journaling. I did do a little bit of layering of embellishments on top of my tags and pieces, but I really love how this one turned out. And it's one of my favorite things to do with a deconstructed page is make it into a shape. So today I'm using the Hustle and Heart collection from American Crafts and Amy Tangerine to make a deconstructed layout using this photo of my silly husband in the tiger picture board thing at the zoo. And he's being very silly, and I love that about him. I'm going to have a look through at all of the embellishments that come in this collection because a deconstructed page for me often includes a whole lot of embellishments. So I'm just looking at anything that I think is relevant. This is a great opportunity to use some of the tigers in this collection. And I'm also going to just have a look at some of the other things. So I took the tigers. There's this inflated embellishment that's a tiger. I also grabbed a leaf. I've got some die cuts there. And I'm going to have a look through the pattern paper. Even though I might not be using the pattern paper on this page, I use these deconstructed layouts, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean by that in a second. I'm going to pick the Stay Wild phrase from these stickers, but basically I am going to go through the pattern paper and pick out some patterns that I might not use necessarily on this page, but that I might use on my next page because I use these deconstructed layouts as a warm-up. So I'm going to make a page that's designed to be a warm-up. I want it to be very quick and I don't want to think too much about it. And it's just going to kind of get my juices flowing so that my second layout that I'll make later on today will kind of come a little bit easier. So I'm having a look at all of the pages, at all of the patterns, and I'm thinking about finding a patterned paper upon which I can put my Stay Wild title that I've pulled off of the sticker sheet and just placed on a piece of waxed paper. And so I'm just thinking about all of these. There's so many pattern papers in this collection. I don't even know where to start. So I really like that paper with the kind of like jungly looking floral pattern in the background. I like that one too. And I want something that is going to have good readability for my Stay Wild phrase. And so I'm leaning more towards some of the more solid ones. And then I thought, well, I definitely wanted a plain background. And I thought maybe I'll just use Stay Wild and not put it on anything and just put it right on the background. So here is the beginnings of a deconstructed layout. So normally when I make a layout, I am layering lots of papers and embellishments together and overlapping everything and building from the canvas, which is that bottom 12 by 12 paper, from the canvas up in layers so that everything is kind of stacked upon itself. And with a deconstructed layout, instead of stacking and layering, I am spreading everything out so that things aren't even necessarily touching each other. Now, sometimes things will touch each other, and see how I just layered the camera on top of that other die cut. So it's not like layering isn't allowed or that I'm, purposely not doing any layering at all. It's more about the idea of everything being spread out. These deconstructed layouts also remind me a lot of mood boards. And it's a really great way to use up some of the embellishments. It's a really wonderful way to use leftovers, but it's also a really great way to use some embellishments that you might love but not be sure of how to use. So that puffy tiger embellishment, it's actually an inflated plastic tiger embellishment. That one is a tricky embellishment to use. It's very unusual. And I think that using it on a page like this is a really great way to get it used. Now, I switched from the tiger die cut to the tiger puffy thing, inflated puffy embellishment, because the tiger's facing the proper way. I want the tiger to be looking into the layout, not looking away from the layout. And I did want it over here on the left side. So as I'm speaking, I'm just moving things around. And I don't want it to be completely random, so I am actually using design principles as I do this. I just pulled this layered sticker apart because some of the foam adhesive was actually showing. So I pulled off the foam adhesive and used my own adhesive to glue that foil layer of a chipboard heart on top of the other chipboard hearts. Now, I am using my design principles, so at first it's pretty random. I just picked a bunch of stuff that I thought would work, and then I put it all together in a way almost like a jigsaw puzzle, like trying to fit things around each other so that they're sort of nestled in together. Sometimes I use the word snuggle, like the embellishments have to snuggle with each other. I love those felt dots. They're really large felt dots, and they just add so much texture, but I really don't like them in 3 different colors. So I'm going to change my mind and put them all in the same color and all the same color as the background paper so that they don't add quite so much. It's not so much adding a visual, like a color contrast, as much as adding a texture contrast. And I'm going to decide to do the same thing with these bows. I love these bows. Bows are adorable. Bows are my thing. I love them. But I'm going to put bows that are the same color on this page just to tie it together, and both the bows and the dots being the same color, those big felt dots, what that does is it has something on this page that repeats, and that's really important in order for this page to not end up looking like just I put a bunch of stuff on a page. I want it to look tied together and like these embellishments tell a bit of a story. Even though there's not much of a story to go with this photo, this layout is going to be one of several of our trip to Moncton. And so I don't have to do a whole bunch of journaling about when and where this picture was taken because it's going to be amongst all the other pages. It's going to be really clear that it was at the zoo in Moncton. But I do still want to do a little bit of journaling about why I snapped this picture and that moment. So the journaling says, I love how spontaneous and unafraid he is to be himself and have fun. And then I was going to put a little icon person, but that was too tall. So I decided to take one of these clear gold heart stickers and put that on there instead, because basically my journaling didn't take up all the lines. So I just wanted to put something on the bottom line on that embellishment. So I was mentioning that I want this page to tell a sort of a bit of a story. Like I want the embellishments that are on it to be on it for a reason other than just I like them, which is a perfectly fine reason to put an embellishment on a page. But because this is a deconstructed layout, I don't want it to look too random. It already runs the risk of looking quite random. So I want to be careful about that. So whenever possible, I'm doing some things to add some structure to this. So for example, I'm putting pairs of these little hearts instead of single little hearts. And that again just gives it a little bit more structure. And sometimes what I'm often doing is I'm putting the pairs of little hearts right with one of the bows, but not always. So now I'm just kind of thinking about, I think I'm thinking about the word fun. The word fun is too close to Stay Wild, which is my title, and it's kind of competing with it. It looks like the title is Stay Wild Fun, and that's not what the title is supposed to be. So I'm thinking about that. And in the meantime, I felt like the tiger was floating. So I put this pencil underneath of it. Yes, please. Because tigers, you know, I guess they could stand on a pencil, but it was more visual than literal. So I just wanted something long and flat under the tiger's feet so that he didn't look so much like he was floating in space, just to kind of close off that little cluster of embellishments that include the tiger, the felt dot, the bow, and the two hearts. I think of those as sort of like one cluster. Now, I had this idea here that I might make the string, like use a combination of string and ribbon so that when I tied, I basically wanted that little charm hanger circle thing at the top of the tiger to have a purpose. So I wanted to tie something around it. And I thought that that might look tigerish, that combination of that orangey ribbon and the black twine, but it was looking a little bit too much like it was competing with the tiger. So I decided not to do that and just tie a little piece of simple twine and tied a simple bow. And it almost looks like the tiger is now hanging there. I'm just using some Stampin' Up! Glue pen, which is a very strong glue. It's great for gluing non-paper to paper. It says Fine Tip Glue Pen is the name of it. And now I had all of these things, many of these things on waxed paper. Some of them were die cuts so that I didn't have to have them on wax paper. And this says, I love you beyond measure, which I think is really cute on a ruler, but also because this layout is all about how much I really dig my husband and his spontaneity. So now I am actually going to position these stickers with my thicker positioner. My thicker's alignment tool, I think is the technical word for it. And it's just kind of a bit of an extra step. I could have just pulled all of those letters off of the wax paper and just placed them above the photo, but this gave me a little bit more control. I really like using my Thicker's positioning tool, alignment tool. I like that. And I do still like to use wax paper, even though I do have that alignment tool. I just find it easier to audition different things in different places using wax paper. So I dug into my stash of die cuts from that collection and replaced the word fun with a little flower. I think that works a little bit better. And I just keep moving things around. As you notice, one of the things that I'm doing as I'm moving things around is I'm trying to not have too many of the same color in the same place. So the word fun was orange, and then the tiger has the tiger in the photo has a lot of orange, and then the pineapple has an orangey yellow as well. So by switching fun for the flower, not only does fun no longer compete with Stay Wild because it's not on the page anymore, but also that flower breaks up the color, the line of color that I had going between the tiger, the word fun, and the awesome pineapple. And I kind of feel a little bit like this favorite memories is too much orange and yellow beside the tiger, but because there's that little pink bow and the two blue hearts between the two of them, I can live with that a little bit better, a little bit more easily, I guess. And so the pineapple is going to go down. At this point, I'm starting to actually commit to a lot of the placement here. Although some of these things are still going to move, even though I'm gluing them down now. And I just can't decide what to do with respect to that gold heart. I kind of like how the heart that gold heart, the gold outlined one. I like how it takes this cluster of this, like if you look at the whole page, it has a very square look to it, and that the presence of that heart just kind of interrupts the square and makes it look it's an unexpected item, and I really like that. It's an unexpected element. Now I added those white foam, some of them are hearts and some of them are pluses. Those come from the same sticker sheet as Stay Wild. They're thickers from Amy Tangerine. And I spread those throughout the layout just so that the title Stay Wild feels like it belongs. I felt like it was standing out as the only white item on the page, that and the frame around the photo. So by adding those white elements all around just kind of ties everything together. I did a couple of last minute switcheroos, and that was just to try to balance things out in terms of size and shape and color. And now, as it is, this layout just doesn't look like a layout. It looks like a bunch of embellishments placed on a page. That's sort of what it is, but that's the purpose of this kind of a scrapbooking page, is to just kind of get you working on something, get something documented, and then you can go on and do something that maybe is a little bit more typical. So I decided to frame it with this beautiful bold black and white striped paper that comes in the collection. And I love this paper so much that I don't want to waste it. So I decided to cut a chunk out of the center of it. I do this a lot of the times when I'm matting a whole layout. I just don't want to waste that beautiful paper. So now I'm going to frame it, and now it's starting to look more tied together. I really like how that looks. It's very, very different than all of my other pages, but that's actually going to be quite refreshing in my album. I like to have different styles every once in a while thrown into my album, just to, I guess, to kind of catch your attention as you're flipping through my pages. So now I have my little Kenmore half-size sewing machine out, and it's threaded with black thread in the top and in the bobbin. Bobbin. I combined the word bottom and bobbin at the same time. So I'm just sewing around, and the tension on this sewing machine is not always the greatest, and I can't always get, like, even if I change the tension, it doesn't seem to help. And so that is the case today. The tension is not very good, and so the sewing machine is actually rounding my corners for me, even though I wasn't really intending for them to be rounded. So whenever I use the sewing machine, I know that I have to just kind of go with the flow. And I really like using it because I do have a better sewing machine, but this one is really lightweight and easy to use for making process videos. So I don't mind that it's not perfect. I am double outlining this in sewing, in stitching, just to add to the casual look of it and to make it look a little bit more, I guess, messy and casual. So there we go. I thought that the sewing was done, and I'm having a look at it, and I'm thinking, it's kind of missing a little something. So one of the things I love to do on these deconstructed layouts is add some staples and sewing to make things look like they really belong. Instead, I don't want it to look like I've set these things out and I haven't actually scrapbooked yet. I want it to look like these things are on the page. So adding a couple of staples here and there using my tiny attacher does that. But I'm also going to actually sew right over some of these embellishments so that it looks like they're sewn onto the page. And it just gives your eye and your mind just that reminder that this is a finished page. It's not just a, setup of supplies before I scrapbook. It's actually a page. So there we go. I'm looking at it and thinking maybe I might want to add a few more stitches. And because the tension is not so great, these stitches don't turn out all that perfectly, but that's okay. It just adds to the casual look of it again. I'm just going to put that in 2 different places, and those are zigzag stitches. And like I said, they didn't come out perfect, but I do like that extra texture that adds to the page. And I think I'm almost done. I'm just thinking about it and looking at it. Going to cut the threads off so that they're not too distracting. And so here is how this layout looks. There will be some photos at the end too. I'll encourage you to hang around until the very end and see the photos of this. And I'm also going to show you the next layout that I made, because this was my warm-up layout, and that is what I'm suggesting for finding your mojo this month, is to use this deconstructed approach to scrapbooking to just jumpstart your engine and then go on and make a more typical page that might be more in line with your regular style of scrapbooking. So this layout is a lot more in line with my regular style of scrapbooking, and I made it using the same collection that I used for the first layout, but see how it has a completely different look? It's much more my typical style with lots of layering, although I didn't go overboard. I showed quite a bit of restraint in the embellishing. Here's that first page, the one that I did this process video for. I really, really love how this turned out, and I don't think I'd want all of the pages in my album to have this kind of a look, but I think it's really fun every once in a while, especially for a photo, like a page that uses a photo that doesn't have all that much of a story. It's a really nice way to, I guess, warm up and get yourself ready to scrapbook. And also, it kind of helps you get in touch with your supplies and design principles, and it kind of keeps you thinking. I like it. It's a bit of a challenge to do this kind of a layout and not have it look too random. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and don't know where to start, one idea is to try this deconstructed approach to scrapping a page. It's really, really fast scrapbooking. You'll get a page done in no time, and then you will feel all warmed up and ready to do another page. Take care and have a really great scrappy month. And be sure to check out our playlist in the information section below of all the previous episodes of Find Your Mojo.